Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merle Hutchinson and Carl Andre. We're bringing you another great show.
Well, we sure hope.
Strong Dads wants to thank 4Speed on 50 for sponsoring today's show. If you like classic cars, great food, and a taste of Americana, you have to visit 4Speed on 50's Diner, located on Route 50 in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Stop in today for a meal and an experience you won't soon forget at 4Speed on 50's Diner. So, all right,
We've got a lot here.
Well, and I don't know. Yeah, so finally you get to that point where you're saying, okay, so I am going to finally submit. And so now what are the things I need to start practicing? That actually say, like, well, what are the ways of Christ, right? Like simple things, the simple things I say, like love your enemy, right?
Oh, yeah, that's
simple
check.
things. Just start, okay, move to the next one, But to start doing some of these practices, and I think we do have a list of some things here where we actually say, hey, once you start buying that you're not God and you're going to start to work through the humbling process, what would that actually look like on the day-to-day? And I think it's so important that, my son wants to be really good at athletics, but he's struggling with the day-to-day to actually get to that point.
Right.
Okay.
The
so
work.
You want to win the championship over here.
We all want that moment of fame.
Right. But what are you doing today? Like, did you lift? Did you stretch? What did you do?
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten there. Okay,
right.
We're struggling.
Yeah.
And I think that's really also, okay, so I finally agreed with you and I said, yeah, there's a Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
But what are the more daily awarenesses, mindsets, practices? And so you ready to run through some of those?
Sure.
The first one, I think really for me is just awareness. Are you finally aware that you got a problem?
Well, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
You can't fix something if you don't know what's wrong.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Exactly. I'm not
right.
Okay.
I got a problem.
So just awareness, like, okay, I'm finally realizing I'm not God, and I got some things to work on. The second one, and we had our men's group just the other night.
Yeah.
And this one is, I just wrote on here, seek honest feedback
from people who will tell you the truth.
Yeah. You've hit me in the eyes a few times.
And you've doubled me over a few times.
And it's, and even though it never feels good in that moment, the idea that I understand that it was not to wreck me, maybe to wreck a thought I was having, but not to wreck me as a person. And I hope you feel that way, like if I've ever said anything
Absolutely.
like that. But I also know, like, those men that are in that group, I always feel like there's a little level of challenging. Well, I agree with you, but not quite on that, right? And when we have that little tug of war going on,
right, that
we can say things that need to be said
in a loving way,
yeah,
a respectful way. But you need people in your life. The Kings had jesters. Somebody that could speak truth into their life. So you need honest feedback, and you need reliable feedback. I mean, there's somebody can be honest but not reliable. I can honestly tell you what I think, but I don't have the depth really to speak out of that. I don't know if that makes sense or not. So
that's how you let people in your inner circle, and then you have like the next level out and the next level out. And if somebody I don't even know says something, it could be true,
right?
But I haven't connected with them yet, so I'm not going to give them the right to speak deeply into me.
Don't go to a bricklayer about diamonds. Nothing against bricklayers.
Yeah.
But you need to know that you're an extremely valuable resource from that standpoint. You're so diverse. You've had so much experience. So you're not the average person. And that's why I have a great deal of respect for you too. And I want you to speak into my life at different times. And I trust that. Yeah. Somebody else may not have that. So everybody's got that cousin.
Right.
That's Anyway.
Yeah. How about the next one is this is hard. You and I had to work on this. You remember this? Observe reactions, and you're fantastic at it. But you and I struggled when we first started with some Bible studies because you and I are not afraid to talk. And the next thing you know, we'd have 8 guys at the table and you and I'd be talking. Nobody else would be talking.
Yeah.
And we had to say, we're going to shut up.
Look for the cues.
And look, we're going to start watching other people's reaction.
Yeah.
Just the other night, you even pointed out, you did it first. You said to one of our guys who was being quiet, what's on your mind? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Because you're watching that, and you got to watch how people are reacting to what you say. Like, are they... If it's your kid, he's probably rolling his eyes at you, right?
Well, that.
But whether people are buying what you're selling. Right.
Well, not only so buying what they're selling, I always strive to make sure everybody's got a voice at the table. And a lot of people in any group, there's in any job or anything, there's that 80-20 rule or whatever it is. But so many people, they want to say something, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot for somebody to speak in a group setting, and sometimes you have to you got to watch for the eyes. You got to watch for the. But to pull that out of them, when you see something that's percolating, and sometimes out of the mouth of babes comes some of the best stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's just some observation. So,
and what you're doing with that, Carl, is you're saying you're just as important as I am.
You're just as important as I am.
Versus if I keep running the show, you know that I am the important one here, right? And so that's a humbling process there. How about this next one? And it's kind of close to what we talked about. Speak less and listen more. I think that is what Prideful.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Well, this is one that you and I we've had to practice, right? Like sometimes you just feel like you got stuff that's important, and we use the phrase. Many people think out loud.
Yeah.
Right, and I get that. Right, I get that they process things out loud. Other people are very quiet. They talk very little, but what they say could be huge.
Well, there it comes. Like you can speak for an hour and somebody can say something in a minute that just, I wish I could have summed it up that well.
Yeah. And so the idea that we just learn to listen more is probably key to that.
Well, one of the things we didn't cover last time about some of the symptoms, I'll tell you this: if you go to dinner with a couple or another individual and you spend an hour or 2 hours sitting there talking and you leave and you can't tell anybody anything about that person, you need to look at that. We've got. I just lost a friend of mine, 34 years that I was friends with. And I truly was friends with. He had a big impact on me. But Linda and I went to dinner with him and his wife, and this happened on different occasions, 2 hours. We'd sit at the table, and they couldn't tell you one thing about us. Now, I like drawing out of people. I ask a lot of questions, okay? So some of that is of my own making, but the fact that they didn't even, I'm not saying it was a pride thing, because I'm okay with that, when you walk away, but you just look at it and say, your pride is going to be one of those things that you need to listen more and talk less in those situations. That's an indicator, a habit that you might want to start practicing is become genuinely, the gift that I had, even though I was really shy, was I was genuinely interested in the human experience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which kind of, just in a way is ask people how they're doing.
Ask how they're doing.
Just ask how they're doing. You're fantastic at that, and I am really good at it now because I've learned the absolute value.
Oh yeah.
Of always asking people. In fact, one of my trainings in the school was, there's kids and there's teachers that get accused of having teacher pets and kids that are teacher pets. Yeah. And what you learn is that's actually very, very rare that somebody intentionally grabs that. Like, I want that kid to be my teacher pet or whatever. What you actually find is you have some kids who are just bubbling with personality, interested in the human experience, want to talk, and they're engaging. And then you got this other kid who's shy or reserved or only interested in themselves. And by the halfway point of the year, they're like, oh, yeah, well, that kid's a teacher's pet. And what you find is I trained, I had an entire program where I'd bring kids in and say, first thing you do, every single day, you walk in the class and you put your stuff up, and then you make eye contact with the teacher and you say, hi, Mrs. Smith, how are you? That's all you do.
Yeah.
And what happens over time, Mrs. Smith will say, oh, I'm fine, right?
Yeah.
And then within a short period, she'll say, oh, I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah.
And now now I got this going back, and by the time we get to the midpoint of the year, we are no longer student and teacher. We are now two people. Hey, how are you? Oh, I'm kind of tired today. Oh, you know what? Hang in there. We're going to work through this together.
Or by midpoint of the year, the person sees. They know you well enough to go, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, they see it. They read it. And so that's the whole idea that you start investing on just I like what you said, the human experience. Like, how's that guy doing?
Yeah.
So
I just always been fascinated with it. You know, I think that there's, what you're talking about, teacher's pet, then there's the other side, the prideful side that wants to be the teacher's pet and is fighting for that. You know, that's that side that comes out. But
it's got a motive behind it.
There's a motive behind it. And I will say one of the things that will be, that you probably, as far as a habit, is truly listen to what somebody's saying.
Yeah.
You know, while you're talking, it'd be really easy for me to think what I'm going to say next. Yeah. And I can honestly say it's not happening. I'm just trusting that the words will come as we move through this. But so many times people are much more interested in what they're wanting to say, and I get into that. I mean, there's times when you get into the heat of things or you're trying to bring something forward. But in general, if you're always waiting to say what you want to say and you don't really hear the other person, well, that's a pride issue, and you need to relegate yourself to that secondary position. And one of those tools is what I call, I've heard it said, die to self, become a corpse. Think of a corpse, because a corpse, you can kick, spit, walk, you know, a corpse won't react. You know, it's when your pride gets involved that you it's not fair, or you're not listening to me, or this is important, or whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying be a doormat. There's still a place for righteous anger, is what we talked about before. But practicing being a corpse, dying to self, it's an art that will take a lifetime.
Yeah.
A lifetime.
Yeah.
But the joy is there.
Yeah. Well, one of the practices that's kind of right in line with that is and this is a practice, because if you're pretty obsessed with your own thinking and your importance of having to say something, this will be a practice. But one of the skills that we teach to do that is when Carl's finished speaking, you know, I haven't shut off halfway through now, and what am I going to say? Now I let you finish, and I say back a clarification in my own words.
Yeah.
In my own words. So Carl, you're telling me that, man, work was really rough today.
Right. Or what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
So that way.
Yeah. And so the idea that I actually totally put my mind at rest and let you come back, and then even, if I missed it, you can help clarify it more, or I hit the nail on the head. You go, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so that's the clarification that lets people know, oh, he actually listened to me.
Yeah. I think God had a design in mind, actually, two things. One, glasses, I think, are responsible for divorce.
Glasses?
Yeah.
I don't get what you're saying.
Well, God made our eyes get bad as we got older, and then we made glasses. Like, oh my gosh, what happened to you?
I married you.
And the other thing, that was terrible. But the other thing is, when you get older, you can't remember. You might get ready to say something, so your memory goes. So it's like, oh, I had an idea, and then it goes void, and the other person's talking. And you can totally listen.
Yeah. Every day is a new day.
There was a plan, and we messed up on some of it.
Yeah.
So.
We try to correct it.
Yeah.
With taking memory pills and glasses.
And boy, if I could just take a memory pill and I could remember what I was going to say.
And then I would have definitely divorced you. Yeah. I think another point, and we talked a little bit about this in the other show, is the idea of learning the importance of admitting your mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then, so admit your mistakes, admit when you're wrong, and then learning to apologize about them. And that, just because I said I screwed up, that does not mean that I've owned the responsibility of any hurt or damage. Yeah, I messed that one up. Mm-hmm. That I still haven't owned, because owning the hurt that somebody else might have had is really the next step of being a man. Because us men, we are to carry that and to protect that and to help fix that if it's possible. And when I just admit that I messed that up. Okay, it's on me, and I've done that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's on me. Let's move on.
It's on me.
No, we're not ready to move on, because that guy's still crippled due to your damage.
Right.
So let's help that guy get back up so he can start walking and the whole crew can start moving again. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. And so that apology, and I talk about the idea of, if you really want to do this, the first place you start is with your wife in your kids. The number of people that I run into with couples that I say, you can kind of feel when there's just a lot of that prideful bickering back and forth, and I'll somewhere just come up and say, when was the last time you guys apologized to each other?
What?
It goes silent.
Yeah.
Way too often.
But you don't understand what they've been doing.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. And I just think it's an extremely valuable tool to apologize to your kids. You and I have talked about that before, where we've wrecked our kids with statements or things that we've done, and in the moment it just seemed right or appropriate, and then you realize the scar that you put on them.
Yeah, you say one thing, it can last a lifetime.
Yeah.
So, a lot of that, to me, it comes down, one of the big practices, and it's been hard for me, is to develop the habit of gratitude. Because if you're grateful for what you have and not pining all the time for what should be, could be, what you think it ought to be, and really settle down. It goes back to what we were talking about a while ago. You accumulate all these things in your life, and it's just never enough. But as I get older, especially health, health is everything. I mean, you take it so much for granted when you're young to be able to get up. I remember Christopher Reeves talking about what made him mad was to see somebody rise from a chair without one thought and gracefully slide across the room.
Yeah, wow.
Walk while he said, I'm trying to figure out how to move a finger.
Yeah.
So gratitude, from a pride standpoint, being content with what you've got and appreciating that, it's a battle for me, because I can be that, this one thing, I can find the fault in something too much, or that perfectionism side of me. But being grateful, practicing gratitude.
Yeah, that's a great one. And just to update, Christopher Reeves, for any of you young guys,
Oh.
he was Superman.
He
Okay?
was, yeah.
So he was an actor that played Superman, and was thrown off of a horse and had a spinal injury that left him, I believe, quadriplegic.
Yep.
Yeah.
He had a breather. He was completely dependent.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that was really the total the mind shift there of everybody saw him as Superman.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And then to be in the wheelchair.
Right.
That was pretty weird. I think it's important that we celebrate other people's successes.
I'd say along that line, too, is being an encourager.
Yeah.
Being able to encourage people is the ability to relegate your pride to a secondary position. So celebrating somebody's success and encouraging other people.
Yeah.
So many people need encouragement. I
Yeah.
mean, they're just really flailing away around out there. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
And for me to do that, I have to shut my own brain off,
Right.
and look at what you're doing. And,
Right.
Yeah,
And be happy for you.
Yeah.
To encourage you on to better things, to say you're capable, or to see something in somebody that they may not see in themselves, and encourage that.
Yeah.
To pull somebody up or push somebody up. It's one thing to pull somebody up to your level. It's another to push them past you. That takes a real quelling of the pride.
Yeah. And I think that whole idea that you're talking kind of goes to probably one of our final points here, and the idea of service to others. The idea that I'm actually going to understand each day that whatever I do, whether I lay bricks or I'm an attorney in the courthouse, everything is about, well, how well am I serving the next guy, versus me getting my paycheck, or me, patting myself on the back.
Yeah.
The idea that every day I see what I do is service to other people. I'm going to try to work for the benefit of somebody.
Get out of yourself.
Yeah.
But you said something there, and I know we want to wrap it up here. One of the things I had on this list was what I said at the very beginning. You need to get to know God. I would also challenge you to get to know yourself, because I think so many people come up and you get all this stuff put on you. Your parents want to see something in you. You're so good at this, or you're so good at that.
Yeah.
And we carry a lot of this stuff around in our life. I remember when I heard Joseph Campbell, and I'm not recommending Joseph Campbell, but he did a book called Power of the Myth, which was powerful for me. It really did open up a lot of things. He had this saying, follow your bliss. And to me, it seemed so irresponsible. It seemed like, well, for me, it was like, well, I'm just going to sit around the house. I don't want to work. I mean, that'd be blissful. No, that's not. It took me a while to understand what he was saying, is that God made us unique.
Yeah.
You have a unique set of gifts that this world needs. But unfortunately, between school, your parents, your friends, society, I mean, Ultra Bright used to tell you if you used their toothbrush, their toothpaste, you got all the chicks in the world and you got rich.
Right.
You've got
Remember they would sparkle?
Oh,
on the
yeah.
commercial? Yeah.
So that's going way back for you youngins. But there's so much that we pack into this that we miss what our true intention is. And the death of self is really the stripping away. I'll give you a real quick example. Our daughter was struggling in college, and she was basically following in her brother's footsteps. And he was an excellent student. He was the runner-up for the Lilly Grant or Foundation. I can't relate to either one of them. Our daughter never had a B, it's just, but she got to college and she was struggling. So I had heard about Johnson O'Connor, and I'm not plugging them. I suggested that something like this, Human Engineering Lab. So we took her up there and they tested her for her innate abilities.
Yeah.
Now, she didn't know that she was in the top 3% for color recognition.
Oh, wow.
Now, you don't know. I'm colorblind. The world looks a certain way to me. If I had your eyes put into my head, I would instantly recognize, wow, this is how the world looks. So we had her tested and found all these abilities that she has not even focused on. She didn't even know. To her, she thought this was normal, that everybody was like that. God makes us unique. And the sooner, I'll just say this, I'm 63 years old. The sooner you identify what it is, those God-given abilities, and you get comfortable with it. Maybe it's that you're going to be in a profession that you didn't think would ever be appropriate because it's not fancy. It's not glamorous.
It doesn't make the money.
It doesn't make the money, all that stuff. But the sooner you figure that out, what it is that you're gifted in, what that bliss is that God designed you for, and you can shed off all those other expectations by dying to self. I'm going to tell you, if I had my life to live over, I would have moved on that much more heavily. I did faster.
Yep.
In my early years, I was doing that. I loved what I was doing. I have to say though, that I stayed in that, basically out of complacency and wanting, it provides this kind of income, and so I think the power is really not only getting to know God really well, but going back and see, like I said to Dante. Don't end up at 50 years old that you lost yourself back there because you took on an image, a person that you're not. Yeah. You're not intended to be.
Yeah. That's good stuff right there. I can't say that any better. I just think that's so important. We've misled so many guys, girls, just by what the school said you were good at. And we all know that we have purpose. And we have skills and tools that were God-given, right? And,
innate.
I was watching Celine Dion did her the opening ceremonies at the Olympics, and whether you like her or not, you cannot argue that what she has in a voice, and she is like, this is just me, like it's just me, and that it just kind of blows me away. And when that was taken away through that stiff person syndrome that she has, the drive that she's had. Did you watch that special on
I did.
her? Yeah, it was hard to watch. Yeah. But what she has there is like she now appreciates more than ever. She always knew she had that gift, but more than ever, this is how I serve people right here. And so all right. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think we ought to. We were going to try to be a little shorter today. I don't know if we got it done.
30 seconds.
But thanks for listening. If you've listened this far,
Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart and Service for being a proud sponsor of the Strong Dads podcast. Started in 1985 and going strong for all these years. Recently, Quality Auto Mart has transitioned from owners of Mark and Nancy Repke to longtime employee Fred and Lorene Venus. For all your automotive needs and golf cart needs, check out Quality Auto Mart, located across from Indian Lakes on Highway 46 outside of Batesville, Indiana. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.